Good boy. We'll warm these up in the menage pots.
I didn't put my stroke down, I did think it was.
Yeah. This is Schöffel. So Schöffel actually won last weekend. Won by 20 lengths, didn't you, boy? So no, hopefully he's quite an exciting one for the season. You get up, they get fed around sort of 6:15 every morning. These guys start at 7:30. They'd come in, they'd be mucked out, they'd all have hay, and just, yeah, exercise. It depends on what lot they're on. Sometimes they'll go out early, sometimes they'll be on a later lot, depending on what they're doing. They're literally waited on hand and foot. Treated like kings. You're spoilt, aren't you, all of you? The start of the day, we sort the board, so what everybody's riding, what the horses are doing. Mondays, they have an easy day. They just have a canter. Tuesdays, work day. Wednesdays, a canter day. Thursdays, we normally school them. So, yeah, everyone knows it quite clearly what they're doing. So it works quite well like that. You coming out? Yeah, so basically, my father trained for 40 odd years, so it was inevitable that I was going to end up doing something with horses. When I was 16, I had a ride in a few points and relatively successful, probably not the best. And I've always sort of trained the odd one, and I actually moved to Sir Johnny Weatherby's, where I worked for 10 happy years. I loved it there, I learnt a lot, ran the stud, foaled all the mares, and then Johnny sort of said, why don't you train a few pointers? I was like, oh, you know what, I've always loved my pointing, yeah, that would be a good idea. So my first runner was actually one that I rode myself for Johnny, trained him at home, rode him myself, owned by Johnny, and he went and won, so yeah, it was a good starting point for him anyway. So they all come into the menage, all do some flat work to warm them up, all pulled together, and that before they go out and they use the canter circle then to go and do their work. It's a nice time to actually see how the horses are moving, particularly like the day after they've had a work day, where they've galloped the day before. You can often tell how well they've taken their work as to when they come back in here the next day. If they pull out and they're a little bit tight, you know, they could have found their work a bit harder than I thought they had. But mainly their movement, I think, when you're warming up in here, and their well-being as well. You often see them bucking and kicking in here and when they're quite fresh, so you have to sit tight. I'm just spoilt though. They're all such good riders. The guys that ride these every day are fantastic, so I'd be nothing without the team behind me anyway. I think that the main difference, to be perfectly honest, between pointing and under rules national hunt horses, it's just a licence. I think nowadays it's so competitive in the point-to-point field that you don't train the horses any differently. Not a lot is a lot different, bar it's a licensed yard, a professional yard, and I think nowadays point-to-pointing sort of evolved where you still do get, I love it when you see like a farmer or someone that's got a farm and they've trained their horse from home, and you know, it's a lovely story then. And there are still people out there and we don't want to lose them. But at the same time, it's become a lot more professional in the fact that, you know, I make a living from training the point-to-pointers. So, but the actual difference is not, I mean, we can still run horses in hunter chasers, which we can still take on the licensed trainers. So, which is always quite good when you beat them. I think the main thing with the sand gallop is sort of getting them nice and relaxed, teaching them to breathe. It's very important. The more relaxed they are, the more they're breathing, you know, getting them into a nice rhythm. And you can get a bit of distance work in here. I mean, we would very much train the horses interval training, so they wouldn't go over too far a distance. Like today, these guys are doing 2 and 2, so they're basically doing a mile, they'll pull up, and then they'll do another mile. And they always go slightly quicker on their right rein. That's just because of the way the gallop is, so we find it rides better going right-handed. So when they're going on a stride, they'll be going right-handed. So at the minute they're just warming up on the left rein. He's very fresh. But this isn't too deep, this sand either. So some people have very, very deep sand gallops, which there's no right or wrong way to train a racehorse. And I think that's the greatest thing about doing what I do. Like, it's one of them jobs where, you know, someone might say they train on a straight gallop and that's all they've got. We're just very fortunate that we've got the sand, we've got the wood chip, we've got the menage, and we've got the grass gallop, so we're kind of spoilt in that respect, I'd say. When they're eating well, they're looking well, they're shiny, they're feeling well. That's more when you sort of gauge whether they're ready to go. And I think after they've sort of done their gallop, how quick their recovery is, that's really important. I don't think there's a buzz like it, to be fair. I guess I've been quite fortunate in the fact that we've had a few sort of bigger winners as well, which is really exciting. But it doesn't always go to plan. It's not always, and you can have an amazing day even without having a winner. I think that's what I love about point-to-pointing. It's so laid back, and it's just a completely different atmosphere to being sort of under rules. And a lot of people do love that side of it. But like I say, it is very much the team around you. If you've had a bad day, like, you can be up there one day and down there the next. Like, we had 3 runners at Higham last week. The first one won by 20 lengths. The second runner was going okay and she actually fell. She was absolutely fine and Ellie was fine. And the last horse actually pulled up. So you sort of come away from it feeling like it was such a mixed day. Like, we'd had an amazing time. Like, he won by 20 lengths, everyone's buzzing, and then you back down to earth with something going completely wrong in the next. And but that's what racing's all about, isn't it? If someone falls off, it's always quite funny because we have a rule that if someone has a fall, they've got to bake a cake. So it makes it quite good fun, because if someone's had a tumble, it's like, oh, what cake are we putting in for? You know, it just makes it good fun. No, you've got to make light of it as well. But I mean, I'm probably the most competitive person you'd wish to meet. So when we have a winner, I'm loving it, and I'm probably having to suck it up when things go wrong, but that's life, and if I wasn't competitive I wouldn't be doing this game. So we're heading up to the grass gallops now. I've actually got 2 young horses, one unraced, one that's had one run in a bumper, and an older horse going to do a piece of work on the grass. So it's where they do their faster work. They come up there twice a week, and yeah, hopefully the older horse sort of shows the younger ones the ropes slightly. And I think the nicest thing with having like the unraced horses is you never know, you could have a complete superstar there. I mean, you might have one that's not really a racehorse, or you might end up with a complete star, but that's the excitement of having one that's unraced and unknown. Some horses do work particularly well on the gallops and probably don't show quite as much on course, and others can be quite sort of moderate work horses, and actually you send them to the track and they come alive and actually they show you a hell of a lot more. So it's all dependent on the horse, to be honest, but yeah, you normally get a very fair gauge. Particularly I think with the young horses, they're probably the ones that sometimes can shock you when you get them to the track. But all their education is like starts here, and then we'll often take them away for like a racecourse gallop or a racecourse school, just so they really know their job before they go to the races. Makes it a bit fairer on them as well. These guys will now, obviously after they've been washed, they'll be put away and everyone will have some lunch, humans and horses, and then the girls will come back out this afternoon and all the horses will be skipped out again. They'll have all their legs checked, anything that's got any cuts or anything that needs any cream, they'll be done, feet oiled, heads brushed, and then they'll be put to bed for the night with their dinner. So it's quite a routine they all have. Horses like routine, same as humans. She actually wasn't too hot, was she? She'd be fine. I guess pointing is a lot more laid back than under rules, sort of family orientated, picnics at the back of the car, very relaxed. And it's quite nice. Like, I think a lot of people now are going down the syndicate route, and racing clubs and things like that. It just makes it a lot more affordable for people to get involved, and actually enjoy the whole ownership experience without actually having to put the money in behind it all. It's not too expensive. And doing like big gallops mornings and things like that. Like, I love doing that and getting as many sort of families, people with young kids. They find it all really interesting. So I really enjoy that side of things. I think that's where pointing really comes into sort of its own. I think that's what the sport's got to sort of go that way, to try and promote more horses and more people coming into it. So. You don't have any working hours, very much, yeah, you can't really plan too far ahead either, because things always come up and life changes, and on a day-to-day basis, yeah, every day is different. But I think that's what is so nice, and it is purely a way of life. It's not just, you know, you could wake up one morning and everything can change the whole day just from something happening that morning, and I love the unpredictable sort of nature of it. Probably keeps you on your toes, and going forward, like, I wouldn't choose to do anything else. Definitely not. I love my life. It is hard, it is challenging. It's not, you don't earn all the money in the world, but you know what, it's a happy way of life, and I think that means more to me than anything.